things about America, but of course I'm a realist as well. I know that America is not the best. We are not nowhere near the best in a lot of categories. It's a decent place, but it's got a lot of issues. But I am looking forward to see what this video explains, why other countries are so much better. Because on the flip side, America does do some things decent. Why would we just assume other countries are better at everything than America at the same time? For a stretch as well, in my opinion. So, let's see.
I'm going to say something that will probably offend many of my viewers. Let me preface this by saying that I, as an American, include myself in the following statement. Americans are quite possibly the most willfully ignorant people on the face of the planet. We have access
as a whole, yes. I think a lot of Americans are definitely more open-minded than people think and know that there's a lot of beauty and wonder and awesome countries in the world other than the United States. But yes, as a whole, there are definitely some ignorance here. I will agree.
the sum total of all human knowledge. Yet our understanding of the world rarely extends beyond our own country. And even then, the majority of Americans believe in a vision of the country that does not actually exist. It's not that we're stupid, we just tend to blindly accept that the US is the greatest place on Earth, and therefore don't see any reason to educate ourselves about the realities of the rest of the world. In this episode, we're going to pull back the curtain on how America actually compares to other countries, and consider why the richest country on Earth fails to treat its people with dignity and fairness. I'm going to provide a list.
That's the key factor right there. I am not ignorant. I know we're not the best at everything. As a matter of fact, the one thing that is kind of frustrating is that we know, based on actual statistics, we know that the United States is the richest country on Earth. We have tons of potential, and I feel like it's a lot of wasted potential. There's definitely an unbelievable amount of wealth disparity among the masses of America, and you would think with how much potential and, I guess, power, GDP, money, all these things that America does have, you would think the United States could be a little more polished, and the day-to-day life for a lot of people, no matter where their rank in society, right, you think it would be better.
List of important topics, then for each item we'll compare the American experience with that of citizens from other nations. Hopefully by providing a side-by-side comparison, you'll be able to see the stark contrast between how most Americans see their country and how it really stacks up against the competition.
Let's do it.
To give you an idea of just how skewed the American perception of our country really is, let's start with a pretty shocking example. Compensation for what are considered low-skilled jobs. Take the quintessential American company, McDonald's.
Okay.
McDonald's is the world's largest restaurant chain by revenue. It operates in over 100 countries and serves over 69 million customers every day. As of 2018, McDonald's was the second largest private employer, with 1.7 million employees, behind Walmart's 2.3 million. How many times have you heard someone refer to McDonald's jobs or workers in a derogatory manner?
A lot in America.
For some reason, people who work at McDonald's are seen as inferior or lazy or have any number of other unfair and unkind assessments leveled at them. This probably stems from the old notion of flipping burgers being a job anyone can perform. But the animosity towards low-wage workers has grown significantly in the past few decades. And in America, McDonald's workers really do suffer a low wage. As of 2020, the average crew member at McDonald's makes $9 per hour. The average McDonald's cashier...
And if you're not from America and you're watching this, $9 per hour, that is not even little here. The United States, as a whole, even though there's some things, when I've done other videos compared to other countries, some things are cheaper here. But as a whole, it's a very expensive lifestyle, very expensive say that is not feasible.
Makes
Nah, but
$8
you
per
black.
hour. The federal minimum wage in the United States is $7.25.
Right, now some states make a lot more than that. Granted, the states that pay you more are also unbelievably expensive.
Which has not been raised in over a decade. Should not be considered a reasonable wage for any position, considering the fact that a full-time minimum wage worker cannot afford to rent a apartment anywhere in the United States, and can't afford a one-bedroom apartment in over 95% of the U.S. Now, the all-too-common response to data like this
I didn't
is
even know it was
something
that
like,
bad.
well, yeah, it's not a hard job. You should just find a better one. Here's a simple question. Should any job, regardless of technical skill required, pay workers so little that they cannot afford to rent even the smallest place to live?
Right.
Not to mention other necessities like utilities.
That point right there, what is the point of getting a job then, right? If you are putting in work, even though it's maybe considered simple, still you're putting in a job, 6 hours, 8 hours a day, whatever your schedule is. How are you not able to? That's a problem. That's why you work, is so you can have a roof over your head and feed yourself. And if you work harder, you can have nicer things and more time or whatever, right? There's something going on there that just doesn't click right.
Absolutely not. That is inhumane and cruel. It is actually the second largest employer in the richest country on the planet.
Yeah.
Other notable objections. McDonald's has to make a profit. If they pay their workers more, they might go out of business. First of all, if you can't pay your workers a fair wage, your company should not be in business.
Yeah, your company's failing if you can't afford to pay your employees a fair wage so that they are somewhat happy and proud of their job and make better work production doing their job, and everyone wins. It helps your company, it helps their mental state. Second of all, we all know McDonald's is a real estate company. They have plenty of money. They can afford to dish a little out to help the people that literally run their businesses every day. You get my point.
But again, McDonald's is not struggling to make ends meet. In 2019, McDonald's raked in $21 billion in revenue. But no matter how obvious the exploitation of low-wage workers, Americans are hell-bent on praising the very companies doing the exploiting. Take this article on Reader's Digest, for example. It's titled, "This is what McDonald's workers really get paid." You see that and think, oh, nice, finally, showing how poorly these workers are compensated. Then you scroll down and, nope, they're actually praising McDonald's, saying things like, the food chain is also great for paying their workers fairly, and McDonald's is one of the highest paying fast food chains in the United States. This level of sycophancy is insane. If $8 or $9 an hour is some of the highest pay in the industry, that doesn't indicate that McDonald's is paying fairly. It indicates that a massive chunk of the population is being paid poverty wages. This is where taking an international perspective is so critical.
Yeah.
If all you see is feel-good stories about how well McDonald's workers are paid, you will never know how badly American workers are actually being treated.
Good point.
Let's take the same company, the same position, but in a different country.
Yeah.
Here's a McDonald's in Denmark. The average McDonald's worker in Denmark, for doing the same low-skill job, makes $22 per hour.
Holy
Well, hold on, you hear Reader's Digest scream from across the Atlantic. McDonald's workers in America get paid vacation days after just a year of work.
Wow. That when they sign up in Denmark.
When you're hired at McDonald's, not only are you making nearly 3 times what you would make in an American Mickey D's, you also instantly have access to a full year of paid family leave and a pension. No need for a year to prove your value to the company. You're hired, you're treated fairly. McDonald's can afford to compensate all their workers like this, but they won't. Because U.S. laws allow them to exploit American workers to the point where they're basically slaves, earning the bare minimum to survive, paying all of their income, and often going into debt just to pay rent.
Let me just, we're going to obviously finish the video, and this is obviously very interesting. It's kind of sad, actually. But we all know the answer to this, if you really think about it. We know that America is unbelievable capital of the world for capitalism. That's what wins in this country. I'm not endorsing it. I'm not saying a lot of people like it. A lot of people hate it. But that's what it is. It's capitalism. You see the tax codes, you see the laws. They are made for big companies to thrive. And if you are just a hourly worker, you will not thrive in America. It is made for business owners and CEOs. That's the raw truth. That's the truth.
Having way to escape this vicious cycle because they're working such long hours. This is the case across all of America's low-wage jobs, of which there are many. The plight of the low-wage worker is incredibly dire, and all you have to do to understand that is look at how those same workers are treated in other wealthy countries. Let's move on to another topic, work-life balance. Fair wages are definitely part of this equation. If you're paid fairly, you don't need to work a second job, which will free up your time to be spent elsewhere. But we're going to focus on other metrics.
Yeah, one of my philosophies, it's an absolute tragedy to work your life away. That saying, right? Work your life away. You cannot work your life away. You have to live life. Your first goal when you're bored is just to survive, and that evolves into living life. You're here to live a life. You should not work what seems like all hours of the day and then sleep and then work again all day and then 10, 20, 30 years satisfied. That's not the right formula. So my philosophy has always been try your best, whatever means possible, to allow yourself free time so you can exist as a person and not a worker all the time.
Specifically, the length of the work week, vacation time, and parental leave. Let's start with the U.S. Most Americans would say that 40 hours per week is full-time. That seems to be the general consensus. But, in keeping with the country's exploitative labor practices, the hilariously named Fair Labor Standards Act does not actually define what qualifies as full-time. That's left up to the employer. Okay, why does this matter? Well, think of your past part-time job. Did you get any benefits?
It matters for benefits. That's right. Some jobs might get the benefits of 32 hours a week, others 38, others 40. If they're sneaky, maybe more than 40.
Healthcare, 401k? Probably not. Most benefits, when they're offered at all, are reserved for full-time employees.
Exactly.
Companies don't want to provide benefits because they affect their bottom line.
Right.
America is all about cutting costs, and providing workers with fair compensation is a cost. So, imagine you apply for a full-time job at Best Buy. You're offered the job, but they tell you they only have part-time positions, but they can give you almost full-time. They make it sound like they're doing you a favor.
Almost full-time. I mean, we give you benefits of 40 hours. We can give you 36 hours. We'll give you a lot of hours. You'll make more money, right? But you won't get any benefits at all. You'll be actually losing monetary value. You're losing value, and you're almost working just as much as someone working full-time. This is a very common trick that you have to watch out for in interviews when you're applying for a job
At Best Buy. You're offered the job, but they tell you they only have part-time positions. But they can give you almost full-time. They make it sound like they're doing you a favor, offering you more hours than normal part-time. But this is just another example of employers exploiting their workers. If you work 37 hours per week, you're essentially a full-time employee, but they don't have to provide you any sort of benefits. No healthcare, no vacation, nothing. This is a common practice. Companies will hire people, but keep them just below the threshold for full-time to avoid providing fair compensation.
That is a filthy, filthy practice.
I've seen it happen. I used to work at Best Buy, and they would do it all the time. And that's just the companies who are still trying to appear generous. Others will simply not offer benefits at all, or set their full-time positions at 50 or 60 hours per week.
Jeez.
Sales positions are notorious for this. They'll often say, well, we expect you to work 40 hours, but all the top sellers are working 60 to 70 hours per week.
Oh my
This is
God.
coercion. They're trying to pressure you into working more hours to benefit them. And the compensation is never what they claim it will be. By allowing employers to define full-time work, American workers are held captive by corporations, forced to either work absurd hours to qualify for full-time benefits, or find a second job to help cover the cost of things like health insurance. Both of these options lead to a terrible work-life balance, and as real wages have decreased and benefits have been offered less and less over the years, huge numbers of American workers have developed an unhealthy work-life balance. For example, in 1960, when workers had real bargaining power, only 20% of American women worked. Today, 70% of children live in households where both parents are working full-time. Where does all this lead? As of 2020, over 85% of American men and 66% of women work more than 40 hours per week.
Jeez.
We work 137 more hours per year than Japanese workers, 260 more than the British, and 499 more hours per year than the French. Why do other countries have such a better balance? Because many of them have laws that cap the length of the full-time work week. Companies are required to pay their workers fairly and allow enough time off for employees to maintain a healthy work-life balance. That's not the case in the U.S. Vacation time is a similar story. Whereas many other countries mandate that employers provide paid vacation and sick days, the U.S. does not. In every industrialized nation, workers get more paid vacation days and holidays than in the U.S. Here's a depressing graph to illustrate just how poorly we treat our workers.
Here we go. Let's look at this. Oh my goodness. I know this is not going to end well at all here. So there we go. I see a big fat goose egg, a zero. Paid vacation, holidays. In working days. Yep, there's a zero. The next worst is Japan at 10. So that's already way better than the U.S. And Japan's known for being really, work, right? Not even close compared to the U.S. work culture. Unfortunately for Americans. But then look at everywhere else. Wow. You get paid vacation in basically everywhere here. And you also get a decent amount of paid holidays. France is number one here, according to this graph. That's very impressive. Very envious of that. I think any American would be. And I know that firsthand. Well, sort of. My wife used to be great friends with a girl in France and got to visit her in France years and years ago. And the girl's parents, who she still lived with because they were teenagers, the girl's parents got to take them around. She visited them, I want to say, for like 2 weeks or something. And the parents were there, and they all got to have fun and see the sights and do a bunch of stuff for 2 weeks. Every day, all day. Because the parents had that month off. They had a whole month off of work. And it didn't involve them with dessert and stuff. They just had that month off of work. I thought that was really fascinating. As an American, that blows your mind. And, on top of that, they have personal days they can take. So it's really, I don't know, it is mind-blowing, this difference in the graph. And you see the big fat goose egg. It's not even like, oh, we have a little bit. And they have a lot more. No, it's a zero versus big numbers.
France 31, Spain 34, Austria 38, America 0. 0 paid vacation days.